Wow, so we have a full room. I was not expecting that because there's so many other very cool talks going on. So thank you so much for being here with me today to talk about testing in modern CI/CD pipelines. This is my first Civo Navigate, so I'm very excited to be here. And today we are going to be talking about the different challenges, the good, bad, the ugly of trying to do testing in a CI/CD pipeline, and then look a little bit at how we can do that better. Before we get started, my name is Cortney Nickerson. I am a mom. There are my smiling children, you know, doing what kids do, which make the world, exterior world, think that they're very well behaved, but in the outside, on the other side of that camera, you know they are not. I got here very late because my youngest had his first day of first grade, so I have not practiced this talk as much as I should have. We were quite busy, but that's okay. I am a developer advocate at KubeShop. KubeShop creates a handful of different tools that try to solve problems for Kubernetes users. Outside of my time mothering and kube shopping, I also try to get involved in community as much as possible. So I help organize the CNCF Bilbao meetup groups. And then I also co-organize KCD Spain and KCD Islamabad, which I know sounds very odd that I help co-organize KCD Islamabad, but that community is phenomenal and they have tons of content that is super helpful and all kinds of things, so you should check them out. I'm also a Civo ambassador, so yay, first Civo Navigate, Civo ambassador, so excited to be here. But we can talk about that in another talk. And I participate in a new group of DASA DevOps, which has a platform engineering expert panel that I've just joined. So if you have anything that you'd like to talk to me about any of that, I'm very easy to find. I'm in lots of community Slacks, whether it's the Civo Slack or the KubeShop Slacks, CNCF Slack, Kubernetes Slack, and you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can also find me Tech Talking Mom on X, which we all are begrudgingly there because there's nothing else to offer yet. But you can find me there and reach out whenever you want. Today's agenda, so we're going to be talking about testing. It is a topic that doesn't get as much attention as it probably should. We all have to do this. Before we get started, let's start with the ugly part. How many of you love testing? There it is. Oh, there's 1 and 2 in the back. How many of you have run a Selenium test? This is getting really ugly now. There you go. So much better than me when I decided to jump in and do this talk about a month ago because I hadn't actually run a Selenium test. That was very ugly when I got started. But in testing, as you all know, there's unit tests, there's load testing, end-to-end testing, and we've got loads of people trying to do this in CI/CD pipelines, which were not actually built for testing. They're built to do lots of other things. And so it kind of becomes a sticky spot for a lot of people. And so with a shift toward continuous integration and continuous deployment, testing is something that we all have to do. We should probably do more of. But it gets really, really complicated, as does everything with Kubernetes, oddly enough. So today our goal is to try to identify some of those issues that are so ugly, and then do a bit of an introduction to a tool that might be helpful in finding ways to scale your testing to your cloud-native services. So I'm sure everybody here actually knows what a CI/CD pipeline is, but just to level set, because you never know, a CI, it's the way of regularly merging code changes to your shared repository, and most of us do that on the daily. And then we've got continuous deployment, which is automatically deploying that code. We don't always have a lot of human interaction for that. But obviously testing is a key element that jumps in. We all know testing in CI/CD pipelines is really important. It's crucial to ensure our software quality, the deliverability, but our environments are rapidly evolving. Modern CI/CD pipelines demand rigorous tests, which get really, really difficult to do at such a large scale. Oftentimes we need a lot of strategy built into this to make it useful. And we don't have a lot of time to build that strategy either because our testing needs are constantly changing. And then obviously utilizing automated testing tools. We would all love to automate these tests, but it becomes very difficult, especially in Kubernetes where you have resources that are changing all the time and environments that are constantly changing. And according to the most recent State of DevOps report, teams that test in CI/CD pipelines with an automated strategy are 24 times more efficient. And wouldn't we all like to have our CI/CD pipeline be more efficient? But it becomes really difficult if we don't have time to actually build a strategy for this as well. So let's take a quick look at what testing in a CI/CD pipeline typically looks like. So typically, you're going to have your test orchestrations done with a combination of scripts and tooling. You've got your CI/CD pipeline over there with your build system. That build is what triggers those scripts. Those scripts then trigger different testings, and then those tests have output and logs that you get. You need to analyze those. Most of them are put into totally different places, so it might be an interface for each tool, or it might be somewhere else in your environment. And having some way of getting all of that in one place is really kind of clunky. Here are some of the blurbs about all of the different things that actually go on when you're trying to do testing in a CI/CD pipeline. For DevOps teams, this can be an absolute nightmare that they don't even want to have to deal with, despite it being so important for your actual pipeline to be able to work. They're having to deal with constant requests from people who are making tests. They have to make revisions of the systems that they have going on, especially when they've scaled to Kubernetes. There are security concerns over how you're going to pull those logs and be able to analyze them from external tooling. Essentially, the systems just aren't built to scale your testing in the way that you need them to be. And then obviously debugging, when you have all of those different reports in different places that you're looking in different, talk about context switching, which has been quite the term since platform engineering has taken such a surge in the industry. But this really is a very good example of how an entire team, it's not just your DevOps team, it's your testers, it's your QA, it's your developers, it's absolutely everybody is constantly context switching to do something that is very basic to have a secure and quality deployment. Going quickly, because we don't have a lot of time. Additionally, CI/CD pipelines were built for rapid release cycles. We need a lot faster feedback. But one of the most pressing issues is the fact that when you're doing testing in a CI/CD pipeline, you don't actually have fast feedback. Your feedback loop becomes quite long because everything is distributed in so many places. In these cases, interdependencies become services, and they're very complex. There's an increased need for more testing, but you can't even get your basic tests done in an efficient way. And also, another interesting fact is 2023 survey, 56% of DevOps teams said that they struggle to adequately test their microservices, and they cite the complexity of their actual environment and the constraints of their environments as being the main reason for that. And so 56% is a very large percentage of people that are just struggling to be able to test their microservices, which that doesn't even count all of your code testing and everything else that needs to be done. We all know test orchestration has never been the sexiest topic. It's not something that everybody's just dying to do because it's really not fun. It's really hard. Everybody likes to build. Everybody likes to see it run. Nobody really likes to test. And so that's probably part of the reason that this is something that's been left out of the loop. It's not a great user experience, and as things continue to scale, that user experience continues to get worse, which means that people are even less likely to want to do this. But the real reason that testing is so difficult is because all of the tools that we've been given, whether it's testing tools or whether it's CI/CD pipelines, none of them have actually been built to run tests. And so they all have their limitations, and that's really what actually makes things so complex for all of us to be able to do this efficiently. This means that most teams have made the loop to Kubernetes or to any type of cloud-native computing, and they have to create their own testing system that looks kind of like that. Right? it's a Mod Podge and you're not really sure what's going to happen, and the ball drops on one place and then it kind of goes to another. These types of pieced together testing machines often have too many components to juggle. They become too difficult and cumbersome for teams to actually be able to function appropriately. The collaboration aspect among your team becomes just as combobulated as this image is. But the reality is, to ship quality code, you have to be able to do testing, and your time to market is essential, but you can only go to market as fast as your testing can actually test your application. And so if this is the only way that you have to do tests, obviously you have a lot of lost time and a lot of lost quality as well. That creates a lot of burnout. It creates a lot of people who just kind of go, well, yeah, I test. Of course I test. Do you test enough? Probably not, and we all know that we don't, but there's obviously a lot of reasons for that. The good news is that there are people who are trying to fix this. So there's a tool called TestCube. This is an open source tool. It also has a commercial framework. But a TestCube is actually a test orchestration execution framework, and it is powered by Kubernetes. It's a tool that's actually built in order to be able to help you do your testing in a scaled environment. Tests can be added to any cluster, and they become CRDs, so it's actually a Kubernetes native component that you're then dealing with. You're going to be able to adjust YAML files, which even for testers are readable, turns out. The rest of us hate YAML, but any normal person can actually read it, which means that they can actually make adjustments to their test. It's compatible with pretty much all testing tools that are out there and testing frameworks. And its main component, which is an agent that deploys into your cluster, is actually free and open source, which is fantastic for everyone. So what TestCube does is it helps you define, trigger, scale, troubleshoot, and then look at the reporting of your actual tests. It's built on Kubernetes, so it makes testing more efficient. It has a GUI and CLI and is API-based, which also makes it much more suitable for all of the different kinds of builds that we have going on. And it offers, above all, and for me at least, this is the big one, it offers unified reporting. So you have a single pane of glass where you've now run a Selenium test, a K6 test, a Cypress test, you name it, you've run that test, but you can now see all of those results in one place, which makes it much easier to then analyze, troubleshoot, and you have access to the logs all in one place so that you can actually coordinate the testing in your CI/CD pipeline. And it very much replaces all of your homegrown, discombobulated scripts and piecemeal together testing units. So this is kind of what it looks like and how it works. It's the actual workflow of it once you've installed the agent. So basically you go to testcube.io. You can get started with an agent, gives you a license key. You're going to install the agent on a cluster. I went ahead and I do have a brief demo that I recorded just before this talk because the internet is quite slow, and so I didn't know if we'd have time otherwise. And it doesn't include the actual installation, but you can install it on Civo Cloud, you can install it on a Minikube, you can install it on your on-prem, you can install it anywhere you want, as long as you have a Kubernetes cluster up and running and a database connected to that cluster. It's basically going to connect with your different testing tools. You're going to run your tests through TestCube. Those results then are given to you in an output in a dashboard, and then you can do anything that you want with those tests, whether it's rerun them, reorganize them, create new tests, duplicate them, do parallel tests. It does it all in one place. So we will do a very quick demo if I can find the screen. 1 second, because I don't know where we put it. Oh, there it is, but it's not letting me click. Where's my mouse? There it is. All right. Okay. This is a recording. I don't remember exactly what I did because I was going as quickly as the internet would let me. So you're going to go to testcube.io and you're going to sign in. You can sign in with GitHub or GitLab. It's very quick. The sign-in process, and once you are up and running with your agent in your cluster, you are going to be taken to a dashboard. You can see here, there we go. So we've got different environments that you can see up here. We're going to have different organizations and also different environments. This is very useful for people who are running a production environment, a testing environment, a development environment. You can run an agent in any environment that you want and do all of your testing there. And as you can see, we've got a dashboard with tests that are already running. And we're going to create and add a new test workflow. Once we click create and add a new test workflow, you can create from a wizard, you can start from an example, you can combine existing workflows, or you can import from a YAML. This is super useful when you have a team that's distributed, when you have testers that might want or need to run their own tests and create them, because basically what you've got is a lot of templates that are fill in the blank. We all know that we have teams that are built out of loads of different knowledge levels, especially in the Kubernetes space. And so when you have fill in the blank templates, it makes it super easy. And as you can see, we've got templates for loads of different testing tools. Pretty much anything you're going to test is there. I ran a K6 test, so you're going to give it a name. K6 Berlin is what I gave it. And then we're going to give it a label. In this case, I demoed it as a demo example. And then decide what version of K6 you're going to use. You click next, and it's pretty straightforward. Click on get, a file, a string. I think I created a string test for this one. There it is. There you have all of your content to actually run that test, and our final command of how you want the test run. And we're going to click and run. And there you have your YAML file. Let's pause for 1 second. You can see here we've got our API version, you've got the name of your test, you've got the exact place where your agent is running and where that test is going to be run. And you can click and you can change any of the information here as you need. It is all editable as you go, so you can do it when you're creating the test or after you've created the test to make new versions of it. You can see what the actual run config is and what the content is of that test. We're going to hit click and create and run. I think I do. Give me a second to see if I did it. There it goes. And that quickly, you have now created a K6 test, you've run it in your cluster, and you can see the results of it. You can see the number of executions by clicking on the execution tab. We just created that test, so that's the number of executions we have. If it's been running for a while, you can go in and see all of them. You can see the different CLI commands that you can do from your own terminal to be able to run it again and adjust them as needed. You can go in and you can make changes to the different settings, duplicate this, you can schedule it, you can create different test contents, manage your resource limits, especially CPU limits. We've all been talking about cost controls. That's one of the things to keep in mind. And then you can schedule this test. I think I scheduled this one for every hour, maybe. It schedules it through a cron job. Which makes it super easy to be able to schedule that test and have it just constantly running. The trigger is now done, that test is done, it's saved as a CRD, you can change it as often as you want. There are other scheduling formats that you can do. You can create by Kubernetes events, so you can go ahead and decide what events you want to trigger different tests, which makes it much more compatible with your CI/CD pipeline, much more easy to integrate into your deployment and production environments as well. You can adjust webhooks, and then it also integrates directly with whatever CI/CD tool that you're using. You'll see that in a moment. We've got GitHub Actions. You can use it with a GitLab, Circle CI, Azure DevOps, whatever it is that your CI/CD platform is. You can then add TestCube to it and trigger all of your tests from there, which makes it a much more fluid testing pipeline, still in your CI/CD pipeline, but functioning on its own as its own entity. And here you can see the tests that we're still running because the internet was a bit slow. We can add new workflows that combine different workflows. So you'll see one here, we combine a playwright test with a K6 test. You can run them in parallel. I might speed this up a little bit because I think we're just about out of time. But as you can see, it's a really, really fast way to incorporate testing at scale in your CI/CD pipeline, include everyone on your team from development to QA to your actual DevOps team who doesn't get stuck having to manage all of the different requests from people because it also incorporates RBAC. So you can decide who can do what within the tool, but what it does is give you a single pane of glass where you can actually run all of your tests, see the results, and make decisions. And with that, I think we only have a couple of minutes, so I'll let it play out with whatever we see of the dashboard. But if anyone has any questions, I'm here until the end of the day tomorrow, or you can ask now as the video finishes. Sure.
Does this work with blue-green deployments?
Yes, it does. You can incorporate it. We can have a chat, and I can show you how it would work with blue-green deployments. Yeah.
How much does it cost?
That's a great question. So it has a great free tier, which I think it's like 3 environments and 10 users or something. And then after that, it's really not as expensive as you would think it would be. I know, because people are like, every time we have a new client, they're like, oh, well, I think I only want 1 agent, 1 environment. And then they're like, oh, that's it? That's the cost? Well, give me like 10 and let's just cover all of it. So it's not as expensive as you think it would be, but also the agent itself is open source. It's free and open source, and so you can always run the agent. It's the dashboards that are a bit more complicated and that we actually charge for. Yeah.
Can you just ingest the results from, let's say, PyTest and not run it through this, or it has to run from end-to-end?
No, you can absolutely just ingest the tests. You can import and export test results from other places as you need. You can also run TestCube without absolutely free of internet connection. So you can run it on-prem. You can run it in places that don't even have connection at all. And you can import and export anything you want and then see and analyze what's going on. Yep. Cool. Yeah, last question.
Does it allow run multiple scenarios in parallel, maybe like create multiple namespaces or something like that?
Yes. So you can create different namespaces, which is where you see pairs up there. It's the namespace. It has numerous namespaces that you can run. You can run parallel tests in each one of those namespaces. You can create your own. You have some templates that are already created there for you. You can create your own as well and customize them. And then if what you want is to be able to run parallel tests in 2 different namespaces, we are currently building that so that you can have 2 different namespaces with agents in 2 different places and be able to run parallel tests in both of them. Specifically, we've got a lot of requests for load testing on that. And I think we're out of time. Thank you.